Let's get some reaction now on this story with a Corruption Watch Head of Legal and Investigation, Karam Singh. Karam, thanks so much for joining us this evening. So the allegations and supposed evidence is piling up against the Health Minister, who's maintained, by the way, that he did not personally benefit from Digital Vibes and from the contract in itself. However, as you would analyze this unraveling, is the writing on the wall at this point?
Yeah, it would seem to be. And, unfortunately, even since the minister's impassioned statement the other morning, we've seen additional allegations emerge about a family trust benefiting from some of these funds, a company that's controlled by his son receiving funds. So, the story continues to unfold. There continue to be more revelations, and it's a very uncomfortable and deeply disappointing situation for the minister, for the government, and for the country, particularly in this moment of still responding to a major public health pandemic.
Well, though the reports actually would suggest that the payments were made for the maintenance of the Johannesburg property, obviously this was owned by the family's trust. And then, of course, there's that matter of the 300,000 rand allegedly paid to a company owned by the minister's son. Could the minister still say that he himself was not implicated because he did not benefit, though his family seemed to have benefited? In other words, is he then innocent because he's not directly involved, or would he then be guilty by association?
Well, I think it depends on what standard of proof we're looking at. So, yes, I think prior to investigative findings coming out, prior to any charges being laid against anybody, the minister maintains a level of plausible deniability. Is there enough evidence to convict anybody of corruption criminally beyond a reasonable doubt? We don't know that yet. But is that really the standard by which we want to be judging whether officials should step aside when allegations of this matter emerge? I mean, we're talking about a serious trust issue which is being breached. This is now on the back of the PPE scandal. This is on the back of step-aside resolutions. We've seen an MEC in Gauteng step down or be fired because of alleged involvement in irregular contracts. We've got an internal Department of Health report that says this procurement was highly irregular. So, what we demand now is full transparency. What did the minister know? When did he know it? Why was this contract awarded in the way that it was? And, the extent to which cronyism, close associations to power affected how these deals were made and how the money was distributed. So it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for the minister.
Well, Karam, then what would be the appropriate response and perhaps action be for the minister at this point? Should he step aside? Should he move on over, allow this SIU investigation to continue and then be concluded before he can resume any form of duties? As you're watching this unraveling taking place, what is the appropriate response? Or what would be the appropriate response from the minister?
I think that there's been incredibly strong rhetoric around the fight against corruption, around a zero tolerance, around combating the perception of corruption when we see it. So now we need to see action which is commensurate with that rhetoric. I do have some confidence that we will see comprehensive findings and recommendations following an independent report from the SIU. I'm also confident that the minister is not in a place to interfere with that report. So to that extent, I'm not overly worried that there could be interference, but it is troubling. It's troubling from the standpoint of the perception of conflict of interest when senior people are implicated in a context in which we have a serious corruption challenge, that they don't step aside, that they're not asked to step aside. That's not the kind of accountability that we're used to seeing in South Africa. We're not used to seeing this president fire ministers for allegations of corruption. And I think, that wouldn't be inappropriate in this context. But let's wait to see now what the SIU report says and let the consequence management flow from the findings of that report.
Corruption Watch Head of Legal and Investigations, Karam Singh, thank you so much for joining us this evening.